I'm going to give you some examples of Loserthink today. Loserthink, no coincidence, the name of my new book that people are just loving already. And that's just the people who have the advanced copies. You can order yours right now, and it will be there in a few weeks. All right, and please do. I would appreciate it if you did. And this is the laundry list persuasion example. So the Democrats are wondering about the best approach to impeach the president. And they have two basic paths. One path is to take their best case, something about the phone call with the Ukrainian president, and just take what they have for that one limited situation and try to impeach. The second path is that they just keep investigating every little thing until they have a whole laundry list of things that are not necessarily related to the Ukrainian phone call, but a whole bunch of things that they think individually would be impeachable, but together they're more powerful. So if they go with get everything, it's going to take them a while, but they'll have more evidence. If they go for the clean shot, the headshot, where you just basically take your best situation, well, it might be faster, but maybe it's not as persuasive. Here's what you do, and I recommend in my book, Loserthink, if somebody brings you the laundry list of reasons, you ask them, hey, in the interest of time, we can't talk about everything on your laundry list, but why don't you agree to this? Give me your best reason on the list. Just give me your best one. If you have time, you could do 2 or 3, but give me your best one. And would you agree that if I can debunk your best reason, that you will rethink your other reasons? So that's the technique. Because often you can debunk the first one, and it's their strongest reason. And then you say, well, if I just debunked your best reason, do I really need to see the other ones? So that's your first bit of Loserthink, is imagining that a laundry list should be more persuasive than whatever's the best thing on the list. Here's another one. Dan Rather and Sam Donaldson, who you might know as two very aged news people from the past. I don't know what their ages are, 80s maybe, 80-ish. But CNN brings them on, together in this case, and they say that, so this is Dan Rather and Sam Donaldson, say that President Trump is dangerous for the country because Trump is only interested in protecting himself. This is an example of the mind reader illusion. Do you think that Sam Donaldson and Dan Rather can look into the mind of the president and see something that you and I can't see? No, because they're not mind readers. Do you think anybody can look into a stranger's brain and say they're only interested in protecting themselves? So when you see Dan Rather and Sam Donaldson brought on, it's because they've run out of argument, and they just need a couple of very old people to imagine they can read minds. Here's another one. The fairness argument. Do you know why you can't have an argument about what is fair? Because nobody agrees. You can't get two people to agree what is fair in any situation. Let me give you the best example. Transgender athletes. There's another story about a transgender athlete who came in first place in some bicycle race. And everybody's mad because the transgender athlete has some testosterone advantage. So, and why do they say that this is wrong? They say it's wrong because it's not fair. It's not fair. Who gets to decide what's fair? Let's forget about the question of sports and athletes for a moment. Just agree with this minor point. that I'm a reasonable person with a real opinion. I'm not making it up for effect. I'm not doing it just to, troll the internet or anything. That's my actual opinion. Would you agree that I have an opinion that's different from yours and that both of our opinions are based on the concept of fairness? My only point is that you can't use fairness as a standard because I won't agree with you what's fair, and I never will. And if you put 100 people in a situation and said, all right, everybody tell us what's fair, they would have different opinions. There's a great article, I think it's based on a book maybe called War on the Rocks, and then there's a website of the same name, War on the Rocks, by Aaron Stein. And he's got an article there that I think is just sort of perfect. And it's another example of loserthink that he's pointing out. So in this case, Aaron Stein is not falling for loserthink, rather he's pointing it out in other people. And I will do the same. So it goes like this. That no one should have been surprised, certainly not the military, certainly not the Kurds, when President Trump said, let's get out of that safe zone and pull back and let Turkey and Kurds work it out. And the reason that nobody should be surprised is that the president has been saying some version of this consistently for 3 years and has been asking for plans to make it happen in the best way. Now, do you think that President Trump was receiving plans from his underlings that were good plans for how we could, safely and smartly phase ourselves out of the Syria situation while making sure that our interests were maintained, keep ISIS and protect the Kurds and protect the oil wells, etc. Do you think that anybody gave the president that plan? I doubt it. Now, do you think the president asked for it? Yes. Do you think he asked for it repeatedly? I'm guessing yes, since it was a major campaign promise and he's been making noise about it consistently. I would guess he's asked his people for a plan. Probably lots of times. Do you think that his people ever delivered a plan to get out of there in a right way? Nope. I'll bet they did not. And if you have experience in the corporate world, you've seen this a million times. How many times have you had a boss who asked you for something that you knew was a terrible idea, but you couldn't overrule your boss? So instead of saying, hey, boss, you're being real dumb, I'm not even going to work on that, it's a complete waste of time, you say, sure, I'll work on that. And then you get busy, and then you don't work on it. And then when your boss says, where's that plan? You say, oh yeah. I got a phone call in. I'm talking to Bob. We're going to have a meeting tomorrow. Yeah, I'm going to get right on that. Then a few more weeks get by, and your boss says, well, where's my plan? You say, Joe never got back to me. I've got a few vendors I want to talk to. I'm working on this, but I have these other priorities. I'm working on those too. I'm going to get this plan to you. And what you do is effectively, you take the decision away from your boss, because your boss can't do the work he's asking you to do, which is the detail work. He just doesn't have that option because he's got to do his boss job. And if you won't do it, or worse yet, you say you will do it and then you just continue not to, you can actually just time him out. So here's the loserthink angle there. If you did not have experience in a big organization where you saw people managing their boss and sort of denying the boss the things that the boss asked for because they don't want to directly say, no, that's a bad idea. They just don't want it to happen. So if you've not experienced that, you would have a blind spot. And you would say to yourself, I don't understand why the president acted impulsively when he could just ask his staff to come up with a reasonable plan, and then he could look at the reasonable plan and socialize it and get all our allies on board. Why didn't he do that? Is he a dope? Because it's so obvious to me that he should just ask his people to make a plan and then sell it to the allies and then sell it to Turkey and sell it to the Kurds, and it's all good. Why did somebody have to get killed? Well, if you're thinking like that, you have no experience in any big organization. In all likelihood, he tried that. It didn't work. It wasn't ever going to work. And so he just grabbed the box and he said, all right, watch this. Shook the box, and now people are talking peace. I hate to say genius, but it might be. We'll see. Nobody knows how these things work out until years later.